Well, I just had a really interesting email exchange with a older brother who's got many, many years in the Lord and has been through crazier things than I, and I so appreciated it because I reached out to him for advice on a few of these things. But he brought up some interesting points, that in my answer, I got some answers. The thing is that YouTube is not a church. Okay, it's really not. It is a crowded marketplace. And whenever Paul went into marketplaces, there were riots. Not so much in Lydia's house or at Bethany would you expect a riot to break out, right? Why? Because you're rational human beings having a discussion. And even if you disagree, the worst that could happen is someone fold his napkin, stand up, push his chair out, and leave. Maybe a fist fight, but a riot cannot break out. And even in churches, it's typically a more controlled situation, But what we have is a marketplace. It's a bazaar. And I was thinking about the scene from Life of Brian. And if you've seen that movie, it's like there's all these prophets, so-called, standing up on boxes next to the oranges and the birds they're selling and stuff. And they're all just saying every cockamamie thing that comes out of their mouth. And they're all competing to be the loudest voice. To a shifting crowd of people that are moving from box to box, marginally interested in what they say, and hearing it in bits and pieces and moving from box to box. None of them really knowing, very few knowing the complete message that whatever that person's giving, and they all contradict each other, right? That's the situation we've been thrust into. And it is unrealistic to expect to have a rational situation when the environment is absurd. And this is an absurd environment. The other thing is, it's virtual. And we've been trained in corporate culture. And I was a project lead and all that stuff at big company and stuff. And what I learned is you answer emails within an hour. If you don't answer an email within an hour, 2-3 hours, you get follow-ups from your manager copied in with the business analyst or whatever who originally sent the email, because after she didn't hear from you, she copied your manager in and said, what's the deal? And then now your manager's coming at you with the other person copied in, and not only do you have to respond to the original thing, but you've got to explain why you didn't respond. And that's the way we've been trained to operate. And at least, and I'm not even a millennial, really. I'm a slacker Generation X, and yet that's what I grew up with, for the last 20 years. So we are trained to respond quickly. Okay, now multiply that by the fact that you've got people doing videos about this and that every hour, hundreds of comments on your wall, many of them asking questions, emails coming in, texts, whatever. Same kind of thing. And you're trained to respond quickly. That doesn't leave a lot of time for reflection and quiet solitude to think. And, no, we are firing off the cuff, man. And you say, well, is that wise? In certain environments, it would not be. But in this environment, it actually matches the kind of place we've been thrust into, this marketplace, this bazaar, where we're not really trying to maintain a fellowship between the different boxes. What we're doing is we have the attention of the people right in front of us for a very limited amount of time, and we are absolutely convicted that what we are saying is what God has given us to say, okay? And otherwise you wouldn't do it, unless you just like drama. But for me, I'm absolutely convicted that what I'm teaching is what I'm supposed to be teaching. And yet I'm teaching to a shifting group of people whose loyalties and affiliations changes very quickly, okay? Constantly moving traffic. So what I do is I just keep trying to teach. You say, well, I would like to not hear you bring up any names beyond, just focus on your channel. That would be ideal if we had a private channel. But that's not what this is, And for example, I've done videos addressing subs questions a year ago about dreams and certain things. I didn't know that those subs were subbed to somebody else who their main thing is dreams, and that was going to get back to that person and offend them. You don't know. And there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on where you are just sincerely answering questions of people right in front of you. It gets back to people who are on the other side of the bazaar on their box, and now they start screaming at you across the bazaar, and they're strangers. You're like, I don't even know you, and a lot of that is going on. And then the crowd shifts. They go back to that side of the bazaar and listen to that person for a while, and then they come over and listen to you for a minute and say, hey, that person across the bazaar said blah, 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 and say, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? So you respond. Now, that is an absurd situation that's not possible to have a rational outcome if you're looking to set up a so-called fellowship that's peaceful. Impossible. So what is the outcome? What are we supposed to do? Well, this is why I always say be wrong and strong if you're wrong. If you feel convicted that what you're saying is from the Lord, then speak it like a hammer. Because you've got your audience for a very limited time, and you have to speak loudly enough to be heard over the rest of the bazaar of voices and capture their attention. And that's all this is. And you can't be concerned about offending the guy across the way with his platform if he speaks something totally different than what you say. And it's going to produce conflict. And yet you say, well, am I responsible for all that? No. Because the environment is responsible for it. That's just the environment. But God sent us into this environment. Either he sent me in here or he didn't. And he sent me in here with the message that he's given me. And I'm speaking it as loud as I can with the limited time that I have to the people who are immediately in front of me, and trying not to be concerned about all the people standing on boxes all around me yelling at their message, not even thinking about whether or not it conflicts with them. But at some point, the manager of the bazaar, Alexander the Coppersmith, maybe comes along and says, hey, quiet down. We need to have everybody settle down. We need to all the people on boxes need to agree. We need a unified message. This is getting ridiculous. The people selling apples can't even hear themselves. Your messages are so confusing in the clamor that people can't even figure out how much the apples cost. And so once that starts happening, and they start to assert their authority, say, we gotta calm this down. They're trying to take control of a situation that there's no way to control. And that's actually when riots break out. Interestingly enough, like you'd consider what happened with Alexander Coppersmith and everything you just read the book of Acts. There were riots everywhere, every time Paul went into a crowded marketplace. Should we not go into the crowded marketplace? Well, for some reason, God sent me into the crowded marketplace. Do I take personal responsibility for everything that happened in there? No, because I have to say God prepared me to be the person I am, knowing how hastily I'll respond, knowing my background, knowing my training. All I can do each day is keep a good conscience before the Lord by the blood and teach what I've been convicted that he's given me to teach. But it's still on the people shopping to decide who they're going to listen to, how long they're going to stay, and really they need to be Bereans and searching the scriptures daily to see if these things are so, Now, I will answer to the Lord, but what I'll answer to him for is not how neatly did I stand on my box and how messy was the environment, because I'm only in charge of what's on top of my box. I didn't make the marketplace. What I'm responsible to the Lord for is the message he's given me to speak. And so therefore, I need to make sure that I am on point with the message. That's the only thing I can be responsible for. If I'm standing on a box in a crowded marketplace and there's all this other stuff going on, all I can be responsible for is my standing on the box and speaking. I can't be responsible even for the relationships in the crowd in front of me, because it's a constantly shifting crowd that's moving from box to box. It's not even a fixed group of people. You start to try to address a concern between a couple of them, you look away, you look back, and one of them's not even there. He's in a box down the, 3 stalls down. And now there's a different group of people in front of you. You thought you were having this conversation, and the people you were having that conversation with are now gone. And they're down there at, the box 5 places down that's teaching something totally different. How can I be responsible for that? I can't capture anybody and make them stay here, or control their attention span, or control how they react, or control what boxes they visit, or how those boxes react. All I can do is be on point to deliver what I've been equipped to deliver. Period. And everybody else should do the same. And then we should expect that it is a marketplace, and probably the end result is going to be a riot. And if you're not expecting that, then you have unrealistic expectations. If you're trying to make this look like something other than this, that's not going to work. So a lot of times people are trying to calm down the marketplace and make it into something that it's not. We don't have control over anything other than the message we deliver. And for that, we have to answer to the Lord. And of course there's going to be people that say, well, he attacked me and he attacked you. And, people want to know why I brought up the name of Chad. I never addressed his teaching. That's the funny thing. That was not I didn't bring that up. What I was addressing was the fact that somebody on a different stall said I was the reason why Chad packed up his box. And that wasn't true at all. He didn't even know. We weren't even in contact. My subs weren't on his. That was after the fact. 3 weeks into it, somebody said, well, he and his David Benjamin and his harem of women and his henchman, Greg Jackson, and blah, 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 and there's the ones who did all this. They told the Chad that, and now he's got it in his mind that somehow I personally attacked his thing. No. And so I've been responding to it from that point of view. I don't even care about, it's not that I don't care what he teaches, but my subs wouldn't really be impacted by it, other than everybody's like, well, what do you say about this guy, So that's the way that goes. You are just trying to talk and respond. See, and also your messages, most of my messages come out of the conversation with my subs. And yet, all of those factors are in play, where my subs is a constantly shifting group of people that change identities and swap booths and move around and have different, ideas 1 minute after the next, And so that situation does not make for trust. And on the one, some of these people like me, Chad, and Greg, and Tim, and Barry, and Chelsea, and whatever personalities you can imagine, could have coffee and have a wonderful weekly Bible study at a Denny's, and it would be fine. We might have this little slight disagreement, but we'd hug each other at the end and then move on. See you next week. All right, man, I'm praying for you. But that's not what this is. No, you take it out of Denny's, you stick it in the marketplace, you stick everybody on a box, and they're all yelling at the top of their lungs to be heard in the clamor. So I think that is my one thing that I've learned. One of the things that I've learned through this whole experience is that it's not a rational situation. It's not really a fellowship. It is a marketplace and a bazaar. And the only thing that you can be accountable for is, if you believe that you're there because God sent you, is to keep speaking your message loudly and clearly and defending it. You've got this moving crowd between the different bazaar boxes. I know I'm killing this analogy. But if they come back to you and say, well, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And they said this and that and this. You respond to your best ability. And you try not to think of the outcome. We are not here to manage the outcome in a place of chaos. We can't manage it. The only kind of people that want to manage it are people like Alexander the Coppersmith that come in, and when they try, it produces a riot. Nope, you really can't manage all that. All you can be responsible for is answering the questions as they come in front of you and teaching what your conscience tells you is from the Word of God. That's why I said nobody owes me an apology or has to explain to me their teaching. I'm here on my box, and I'm going to keep teaching what I teach. And I expect it to keep producing the problems it produces because that's the nature of the environment. Half of it, at least, is the environment itself and not the people. We're in a marketplace, not over at Lydia's house for dinner. We're not at Denny's, we're at the marketplace. And we're all standing on these weird boxes. You say, well, why would you even want to do that? I didn't know that's what it was going to be like. I didn't choose it. I set up my box. When you first go to the marketplace, somebody says, hey, you should go to the marketplace. Oh, okay. And they got these boxes, and you can tell people oh, good, that's nice. Hey, look, there's a box next to me. That's nice. We'll be able to talk and maybe have lunch during breaks. But then you start giving your message, and it all just takes a life of its own. You can't control that environment. The question is, are you supposed to stay or leave? And for now, the Lord has me here. And I have to assume that my steps are ordered of the Lord. I have a good conscience. I sense the flow of His Spirit when I speak. And I know that I'm speaking what I know is true of the Word. And it hasn't changed because the Word hasn't changed. I'm not a workman that needs to be ashamed. I'm not apologizing for messages I did last year and said, oh, I was totally wrong on that. And I've changed all my views now. And I used to be this, but now I'm that. No, that part's done, thankfully, before I got on my box. But now I'm on my box. And I'm just speaking this message. And I do appreciate the people there has been a beautiful fellowship with the people who stayed. Eventually, you get some people that stay, and they don't move around from box to box, or they move around between a few compatible boxes. It's the best you can expect. So, why did I explain all this? I don't know. I'm not sure who this is going to help. It helped me. Helped me to kind of frame what's going on. All right, take care.